How's it going, guys? My name's Gotcake and welcome to Star or Shovelware. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake released last month for the Nintendo Switch. So the past few years has seen a lot of remakes and remasters released for modern day consoles. Games like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon and Shadow of the Colossus have all seen re-releases featuring complete graphical overhauls, utilising modern graphics and sound engines, but unlike remasters such as Tomb Raider and Resident Evil reboots, these games have stayed true to the original game in both gameplay mechanics and story. So the Switch version of The Legend of Zelda is another remake which follows suit. Though it does feature a few minor tweaks and additions to the original 1993 version, it stays true to its origins, whilst attempting to make the retro classic appeal to a modern day audience. So first let's talk about what is Link's Awakening. It's an action-adventure game with a top-down perspective, and it features many of the same gameplay elements familiar to anyone who has played any of the other previous Zelda titles. Items like the bombs, the bow and arrow and the hookshot are all present, as well as the usual overworld exploration and multiple dungeons and bosses to fight. As you progress through each dungeon, you gain new items which allow you to bypass previous obstructions in the overworld and provide you with more areas to explore and open the path to the next dungeons. There's optional side quests as well as a couple of different mini games that you can play, though these aren't really necessary to complete the main storyline. So let's first start by talking about the graphics. The Switch remake is presented in widescreen, unlike the Game Boy's original 1:1 aspect ratio, and with the overall graphics the developers have gone for a chibi toy-like aesthetic. While it might not be everyone's cup of tea, the up-to-date graphics do look beautiful, with everything from the grass and trees to the enemies and bosses maintaining their overall appearance when compared to the original game. The overworld environments are vibrant, the dungeons are dark and bathed in shadows, but it's the smaller details such as butterflies, rippling water and the grass and leaves that sway gently in the wind. Just this attention to detail that really brings the island of Koholint to life. When it comes to sound, the game sounds amazing. Composer Ryo Nagamatsu has done a really fine job of remastering all the music from the original game, from the iconic overworld theme, to the foreboding dungeon musics. The updated audio and sound effects retain the feeling of their 8-bit counterparts, whilst breathing new life into them, making them feel at home and appropriately modernised for the Switch version of the game. And the same can be said for each environment's ambient background noises and the game's sound effects. The storyline of the Switch version of Link's Awakening honourably follows the original, with the majority of the dialogue and gameplay elements accurately replicated in the remake. The layout of the overworld has been beautifully remastered, but it's now an open world, so it's free from the scrolling screens found in the original. All 9 dungeons found in the original game have been replicated flawlessly in the remake, but unlike the overworld, these still feature the screen scrolling effect found in the original. Boss battles, whilst having slight variations in terms of the graphics, still maintain the same mechanics and strategies from the original game. There are, however, a few areas in which the remake differs from the original. One of these is with the Seashell side quest. In the original there were 26 seashells to collect, whilst the remake now features a total of 50 to find scattered across Koholint. The fantastically frustrating trendy game is back, and whilst it doesn't feature the conveyor belt from the original game, which makes it somewhat easier to grab the items, the new physics engine makes it more like an arcade claw machine, and it forces you to be more precise with your claw placement to avoid the chance of dropping an item as the claw makes its way back to deliver it. Perhaps the biggest new addition to the Switch version is the Chamber Dungeon Maker. By speaking to an NPC called Dampe, you can create your own dungeons using tiles that are gained through story progression and exploration. Each tile features a previously completed dungeon screen, and the dungeon creator allows you to sort of Frankenstein different dungeons together to make your own custom dungeon. After creating your dungeon layout, you can then challenge the dungeon, and you get to keep any rewards that you find whilst adventuring through them. Damper sets you different challenges as well, which require you to create dungeons with specific layouts or restrictions. However, you can create your own free from any restrictions. If you do choose to create the dungeons, after you've completed them, it will offer you different rewards such as new dungeon tiles or items. Overall, I think that Grezzo have done a fantastic job in bringing the Gameboy Classic to the Switch. It's one of the best remakes that I've played in a long time. The visuals, the sound, the gameplay overhauls all do a great job in bringing the game up to date and perhaps more appealing to a modern audience who might find the original Game Boy's 8-bit graphics or gameplay a little bit too clunky. At the same time, the game still manages to invoke that feeling of nostalgia. It captures the essence of both the gameplay and the story elements, which made the original such a memorable and enjoyable experience for all of those who played it and loved it. The game's not without fault though. I've also mentioned the chibi aesthetic, so I won't go over this again. But one of the main issues with the game is its frequent frame rate drops. Whilst this is understandable in areas rendering a lot of water such as Gaponga Swamp, often there's no discernible reason for them. Apparently even the developers haven't been able to work out exactly why it's happening, but despite these performance issues, there's no real significant impact on the playability of the game, as the frame rate drops tend to only last a couple of seconds before the game returns to a stable 60 FPS. The second minor issue, which will likely only be of concern to people playing the game for the first time, especially after coming from other Zelda games such as the massive open world adventure that is Breath of the Wild, is the scale and difficulty of the game. For its most part, Link's Awakening is a linear game. There are like side quests like I mentioned before and some mini games you can do, but for the majority of the game you'll be required to adventure from one dungeon to the next to progress the storyline. The bosses in each dungeon are also not hugely challenging, usually requiring you to utilise one of your newfound items in some way to defeat them. For those who consider themselves veterans, or for those who want more of a challenge, you do have the option of starting the game on hero mode. This will double the damage you take and also stop the recovery hearts from dropping throughout the world. There are some problem solving elements within the game, both in the dungeons and out, the majority of them being outside of the dungeons and required in order to gain access to the next dungeon, but for the most part the puzzles are relatively trivial and they often require you to remember to revisit an area that was previously inaccessible in order to gain access to the next dungeon. If at any point in the game you become too stuck or lost and don't know where to go next, there's a guy in the game called Old Man Ulrira, and he's only a phone call away. He'll often tell you exactly where you need to go next. Link's Awakening is quite a simple, easy going game, and it's this simplicity of gameplay that might put off anyone wanting more of a challenge or expecting another huge open world adventure, but it's also this simplicity that makes Link Awakening such a delight to play, and it conjures up the memories of a simpler era of gaming. Having enjoyed every minute of this game from start to finish, including all the side quests, I've decided to give this game 4 out of 5 stars. It really is an exceptional example of how a remaster or remake should be done. Overall, in my opinion, Link's Awakening is a fitting tribute to the 1993 classic. It's short and sweet, and considering its overwhelming positive reception, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a remastered version of what I believe to be the greatest Zelda game of all time, and one of my personal favourite Nintendo games, 1991's Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. If you haven't yet played Link to the Past, then you need to stop playing whatever game you're playing now and go and play it. It's included in the recently added Super Nintendo emulator, which is free for anyone with a Nintendo Switch Online subscription. And that's about it guys from me for this review of Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. What are your guys' opinions of the game? Do you agree or disagree with my star rating? Let me know in the comments section below. This channel's only just starting up and I'm going to be posting more game reviews and guide videos in future, and I'd be really grateful for any encouragement, support or guidance you guys have got to offer. And that's it from me guys. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of future videos, and until next time, have a good one.